My name's John. Basically met Daryl a few months ago now, and so when I met him, I had a few people tell me what he did. He talked about some mindset stuff, and I was like, "Oh, that's kind of cool," but I never really did anything with it. I heard though about how he'd worked with some people, and some people had gone from like 10,000 a month, and like next month or two later, doing like 30,000 a month, and like heard like 3 or 4 stories like that, and I'm like, what the hell does this guy do? It's kind of nuts, and so I was like, well, I mean, I feel like I got my shit together, but I better hire this guy because everyone that's worked with him has had such crazy results. So I honestly didn't know him too great, didn't know really crazy like what he did and how it works and all that, but I'm like, man, I gotta find out. So I hired him. All right, Daryl, here's my money. Do what you do, okay? And so he got on the Skype calls with me, and he started working with me through some stuff, and he found out that I'm good with money, and I was good with growing my business. But as I was growing my business, I was growing every other area of my life down, and it's just like I was able to see like the numbers of my bank account rise, and if you could measure like the numbers of my relationships and love and happiness and really what I think life's about, it was actually going down. And so he's like, dude, like, look at this, and he was able to like actually, like, when you're in this part of life and I think you can feel something that's not actually complete, right? And so like I felt like something was there like that, and I couldn't actually see it. I couldn't break through that barrier that was holding me back from being able to have success in my whole life. And so I basically hired Daryl, and he was able to shake up my head enough to really get me to see like what's important in life. And so I did something smart. I hired him again because I was able to fix like my problems with ignoring my wife and ignoring my son and just focusing on my business. Now I love my wife and my kid, and now I actually spend time with them, and I treat them like I love them, and I grow those relationships, and I stay stable, and I still grow my business. And so I really think that that's like the big difference for me from when I met Daryl till now is the ability to have success truly, not just money, because I think that I was living an empty life that had just a lot of dollars in it, and that was like worthless, right? And now I live a very fulfilled life, but I did something extra. I actually hired him again because I have a bad relationship, or had a bad relationship with my dad, and it was like he had a lot of stuff that he was going through when I was a kid, and so like my whole childhood was just like very, very rough. There's a lot of verbal abuse and mental like strain, and just a lot of really like negative stuff, and I had held on to that really hard through actually like growing up. And even to like just a few months ago, I had like such a strong, terrible relationship with my dad. We actually took a trip, me and my dad and his wife and my wife, to Idaho, and it was one of the worst trips of my life. Oh man, we were in the car, and it was just like cussing at each other, yelling at each other, slamming on the brakes, pulling over, get out of the car, Oh man, it was the worst. It was 7 days of hell. And so after my 7 days of hell with my dad, I basically hired Daryl. I was like, dude, get to my dad, like we gotta solve this problem. And so what we did is we actually hired Daryl. Flew out to Annapolis to meet him, and he spent 3 full days with him. He worked on my dad, and he actually worked on me too, because I'm telling you right now that I had all this stuff and anger and bitterness towards my dad. I didn't actually know it at that point. And so we were at the point before we flew out here to where it was like, you can leave, you can go, you say goodbye to my wife, you say goodbye to your grandson, my kid, and just get out of our lives. And by the time we came back from Annapolis, we'd actually put a lot of that crap to bed, and we dealt with it, got it right out in the open, and it was raw, and it was brutal, and it hurt, and it sucked, but we got through that, and we were able to deal with my bitterness, my anger towards him. And like literally, I know it's weird to say it, but I left with that gone. I left that in Annapolis, and now we came back, and we had like this one big argument. As soon as we got back, I was like, shit, like frickin' hey, like this did not work, right? And so then we had another time to talk, and I was like, Dad, it's like, are you still mad about Annapolis? And he's like, no. Like 3 days later, he just finally tells me like how traumatic of an experience it was for him, because he was like, he just had like so much stuff like brought up to him, you know, it's such a traumatic event, but we were able to like talk it out, and we're just like, okay, you know, like what's going on here, and just be real with each other. And you know, honestly, since that one last point where we just had that one last argument and then we were real with each other afterwards, I've got my dad back, you know, and he's part of my life. He's a part of his grandson's life, my son, you know, he's a part of my wife's life. And you know, now we just had a Thanksgiving dinner, and you're not gonna believe this, I had a Thanksgiving dinner. Everyone was getting along. It was awesome. You know, we had everyone over, and no one was fighting, no one was bickering, and we just had an awesome turkey day, and you know, got to have our cake and eat it too. You know, so it was awesome, and we're gonna do the same thing this Christmas dinner, and it's freaking awesome. So, you know, as much as I can, you know, push you to say, like, basically just, you know, hire Daryl, because you don't know what you're missing. Like, honestly, like I didn't, you know, I had the smarts enough to know that, you know, when this dude works with someone, shit happens. Awesome shit, not bad shit. Shit goes away. He pulls up the crap and then he throws it down the drain, you know, and it hurts and it's brutal and it's tough, and you might not want to do it. You might be afraid, but you conquer that fear, you know, and then listen to your logic. Like, this guy works with people and he gets results. He changes lives, and you know, it's about real success. It's not about this fake success stuff. You know, so screw all that stuff. Listen to your senses and hire this guy, man.